What if I told you there's a sea out there
Mm-hmm.
that acts like a giant time capsule?
Okay. I'm intrigued. A time capsule, how?
It preserves ancient shipwrecks in
Wow.
near perfect condition.
I'm guessing you're talking about the Black Sea.
You got it. We're diving deep into the Black Sea today, a
Awesome.
place where history and science
Mm-hmm.
and even a bit of myth collide.
Love it.
We've got research papers, historical accounts,
Okay.
and even some underwater exploration footage
Oh,
to guide
you
us.
set the scene for me.
Okay, so geographically,
Yeah.
it's this almost entirely landlocked sea
Okay.
bordered by 6 countries and connecting to the Mediterranean through a narrow strait.
Okay.
Around the edges, it's relatively shallow.
But,
In the center,
yeah.
the seabed plunges to incredible depths over 7,000 feet.
Wow. Okay.
And here's where it gets really fascinating.
Okay.
Below a certain depth, the Black Sea is almost completely anoxic,
Anoxic meaning
meaning no oxygen.
no oxygen. Okay, so that's starting to sound like our time capsule.
Right. I'm guessing this lack of oxygen has something to do with the well-preserved shipwrecks you mentioned.
Exactly. Most people think of oxygen as essential for life. And it is, but it's also essential for decomposition.
So no oxygen means things don't decay the way they normally would.
Precisely.
Interesting.
Think of it like this.
Yeah.
In most of the ocean, a shipwreck would slowly be broken down by bacteria and other organisms that need oxygen to survive.
Okay.
But in the Black Sea's anoxic zones, those processes are incredibly slow. Meaning you can find Byzantine-era vessels down there
Wow.
that look like they sank just yesterday. Imagine diving to these depths
Yeah.
and seeing history frozen in time.
That's incredible.
It really is something else.
But how did these anoxic zones form in the first place? Was the Black Sea always like this?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And it's led to a fascinating scientific debate.
Okay, lay it on me.
Some researchers believe the Black Sea's unique chemistry.
Is the result of a catastrophic flood that happened thousands of years ago.
A flood? Are we talking Noah's Ark levels of catastrophic?
Some researchers actually think this event could be the inspiration for that very story.
Really?
They theorize that rising sea levels breached the Bosphorus Strait,
Okay.
creating a massive influx of water into the Black Sea basin.
So a real-life flood might be responsible for the Black Sea's current state. I'm already hooked.
But of course, there's another side to this story.
Hey, let's hear it.
Some scientists argue for a more gradual process,
Okay.
suggesting the Black Sea basin slowly filled over time.
Interesting.
They point to geological formations and sediment layers as evidence.
So we have two possible scenarios. A sudden cataclysmic flood
Right.
versus a slow and gradual change over millennia, both with evidence to back them up.
Exactly. And that's where we'll pick up in part 2 of our deep dive.
Can't wait.
We'll examine the evidence for each theory
Okay.
and see if we can unravel this ancient mystery.
I'm ready when you are. So last time we left off with this incredible image.
Yeah.
These perfectly preserved Byzantine shipwrecks.
Right?
Seemingly frozen in time thanks to the Black Sea's unique anoxic environment.
It's mind-boggling to think that these ships have survived for centuries in near-perfect condition
Yeah.
because of a lack of oxygen.
So let's unpack that a bit further.
Okay.
How does this lack of oxygen, something we usually associate with death and decay, actually help preserve things?
Well, in most environments, when something organic dies,
Mm-hmm.
like a tree or, in this case, a wooden ship,
Okay.
bacteria and other microorganisms get to work breaking it down.
Right.
This decomposition process requires oxygen.
Ah, so it's like those bacteria are having a giant feast, and oxygen is their main course.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
But in the Black Sea's anoxic zones,
Yeah.
there's simply not enough oxygen to support that kind of bacterial activity.
So the feast is canceled and the shipwrecks are spared.
Precisely. Without oxygen, the decay process slows down dramatically.
Okay.
It's not that things don't decompose at all.
Right.
It's just that it happens at a glacial pace.
That makes sense, but how does this anoxic environment form in the first place? Is it just because the Black Sea is so deep?
Depth plays a role, but it's more about the unique layering of water in the Black Sea.
Okay.
Remember, we talked about it being almost completely landlocked.
Right. It's connected to the Mediterranean by a relatively narrow strait.
Exactly. That means there's limited mixing of water between the Black Sea and the open ocean.
So instead of a free-flowing exchange, you get these distinct layers.
You got it.
Okay.
At the surface, you have fresh water flowing in from rivers, creating a less dense layer. Then below that, you have denser, saltier water coming in from the Mediterranean,
Okay.
through the Bosphorus Strait.
Okay, so 2 layers, fresh on top, salty underneath.
Yes.
What happens next?
Well, because these layers don't mix easily, the deeper, saltier water becomes stagnant. Over time, the oxygen in that deep water gets used up by marine organisms in decomposition processes.
But there's no fresh oxygen coming in from the surface to replenish it.
Exactly, and that's how the deep water becomes anoxic.
Interesting.
It's essentially starved of oxygen.
Wow. So it's like the bottom of the Black Sea is suffocating?
In a way, yes.
Crazy.
And this creates a harsh environment for most marine life.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Most, but not all.
Okay, there are exceptions.
There are certain types of bacteria that actually thrive in these oxygen-deprived conditions.
Oh, wow. So life finds a way even in the most extreme environments.
It's pretty incredible.
But I'm guessing it's not exactly a thriving ecosystem down there.
You're right, the diversity of life in those anoxic zones is pretty limited.
Yeah.
It's mainly these specialized bacteria that can survive without oxygen.
Oh.
And here's where things get even more interesting.
Another but.
You know?
All right, let's hear it.
These bacteria, as they break down organic matter,
Okay.
actually produce hydrogen sulfide.
Wait, hydrogen sulfide, isn't that what gives rotten eggs their smell?
The very same.
Oh, wow.
It's toxic to most life forms.
Yeah, it doesn't sound pleasant.
And yes, gives the Black Sea's depths a rather unpleasant aroma.
I'll take your word for it.
Though thankfully you can't smell it from the surface.
That's good.
Yeah.
So this anoxic environment, while amazing for preserving shipwrecks,
Right.
is also pretty inhospitable.
Yeah.
Which brings us back to that big question from earlier.
Yes.
How did it get this way? The flood versus gradual change debate.
Right.
Let's start with the flood theory.
Okay.
Some researchers believe a massive flood, possibly around 7,600 years ago, drastically changed the Black Sea's environment and the evidence for this.
Well, scientists have found submerged settlements and freshwater mollusk shells deep underwater,
Okay.
suggesting a sudden shift in the Black Sea's makeup.
Interesting.
There's even an ancient Greek port city, Acre, now submerged near the Kerch Strait.
Okay, a whole city underwater does sound like a pretty compelling case for a flood.
Yeah,
But I thought there was evidence for the gradual change theory as well.
there is.
Okay.
Some researchers argue that geological formations and the way sediment layers are laid down
Okay.
point to a slower, more gradual filling of the Black Sea basin over time.
Okay.
They suggest the freshwater shells could have been carried in by rivers over long periods,
Okay.
rather than deposited all at once.
So which side has the stronger evidence?
That's the tricky part.
Yeah.
Both theories have compelling evidence,
Yeah.
and the scientific community is still actively researching and debating the origins of the Black Sea.
Wow, that's fascinating.
It's a great example of how science works. Constantly questioning, analyzing, and refining our understanding.
And sometimes the most interesting answers are the ones we haven't found yet.
Exactly.
But while we wait for more definitive evidence about the Black Sea's past,
Yeah.
let's shift our focus to its present.
Okay.
Specifically, the incredible diversity of life that calls its upper layers home.
Right. Because despite those oxygen-deprived depths,
Yeah.
the surface of the Black Sea teems with life, from playful dolphins to commercially important fish species.
Lead the way.
Okay.
What fascinating creatures are we going to encounter?
So we've explored the depths of the Black Sea
Yeah.
from its anoxic zones and remarkably preserved shipwrecks
It's amazing down there.
to the debate over its mysterious origins.
Right, 2 completely different pictures of how it came to be.
But now let's come up for air
Okay.
and explore the vibrant ecosystem thriving at the surface.
That's a great shift in perspective. While those depths are fascinating, it's important to remember that the Black Sea isn't just a time capsule.
Right.
It's a living, breathing ecosystem.
Exactly. And it's surprisingly diverse.
Really?
We've got everything from playful Black Sea dolphins
Oh, wow.
to commercially important fish species like anchovies and sprats.
Black Sea dolphins. I'm picturing them leaping through the waves against a backdrop of ancient ruins.
Okay.
It sounds almost mythical.
It's a pretty incredible sight.
I bet.
These dolphins are actually a subspecies of bottlenose dolphins
Okay.
and are uniquely adapted to the Black Sea environment.
Interesting.
They're smaller than their ocean-dwelling cousins
Okay.
and have some distinct behavioral differences.
Fascinating. But I imagine this ecosystem,
Yeah.
like so many others,
Mhm.
faces its share of challenges.
Unfortunately, you're right.
Yeah.
The Black Sea is under pressure from pollution, overfishing, and invasive species.
Pollution, where's that primarily coming from?
A lot of it stems from agricultural runoff, fertilizers, and pesticides washing into the sea from surrounding farmland.
Okay.
And then there's industrial waste and untreated sewage from coastal cities.
All contributing to an increasingly fragile ecosystem.
Right.
What about these invasive species you mentioned? Any particularly troublesome ones?
One that's had a major impact is the comb jellyfish Nemiopsis lidii.
Okay.
It's native to the Atlantic coast of North America,
Okay.
but was accidentally introduced to the Black Sea in the 1980s,
Right. Oh, how'd that happen?
likely through ballast water from ships.
Ballast water, a seemingly innocuous thing causing such significant disruption.
Right, it's a stark reminder of how interconnected our world is.
Absolutely.
But back to the cone jellies.
Yeah.
They're voracious predators, feeding on the same zooplankton that many fish species rely on.
So they're outcompeting the native species for food.
Exactly, their population exploded,
Oh, wow.
decimating fish stocks and disrupting the entire food web of the Black Sea.
That's a pretty sobering reminder of the havoc invasive species can wreak on an ecosystem.
Yeah.
But haven't there been efforts to control these comb jellies?
There have been.
Okay.
Researchers and conservationists are working to find ways to manage their population,
Okay.
but it's a complex challenge.
It sounds like it, but it's encouraging to know that people are actively working to protect this unique ecosystem.
Yeah, definitely.
But we can't talk about the Black Sea without acknowledging the geopolitical forces at play, right? It's not just a scientific marvel. It's a strategic location with a long and complex history.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Throughout history, control of the Black Sea has been vital for trade, military power, and access to resources. And those dynamics are still very much at play today.
So remind me, which countries border the Black Sea?
We've got Turkey, Bulgaria, Romania, Ukraine, Russia, and Georgia.
And each with their own interests and ambitions in the region.
Exactly. The Black Sea is a crossroads,
Yeah.
a meeting point of cultures, economies, and political ideologies.
And often those different interests collide.
Yeah.
I'm thinking in particular about the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine.
Right.
How has that impacted the Black Sea region?
It's had a profound impact.
Yeah.
Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014 dramatically heightened tensions in the region.
Right.
And its current military actions in Ukraine have further destabilized the Black Sea, creating a sense of uncertainty and unease among neighboring countries.
Especially those countries that rely on the Black Sea for trade and security.
Right, and then there's the energy dimension.
Yeah.
Of course.
The Black Sea region holds significant oil and gas reserves, which adds another layer of complexity to the geopolitical landscape.
So we have energy security, military posturing, economic interests, all converging in one relatively small body of water.
Right.
That's a lot of pressure on the Black Sea,
It is.
both ecologically and politically.
And finding a sustainable path forward, one that balances those competing interests while also protecting the environment.
Right.
That's the real challenge.
It sounds like the Black Sea is a microcosm of the challenges facing our world as a whole.
Yeah.
Climate change, geopolitical tensions, the need to balance economic development with ecological sustainability.
You said it.
Wow.
And it's a story of resilience, change, and interconnectedness offers valuable lessons for us all.
And just like the Black Sea itself, that story is far from over.
Right.
What new chapters await? What secrets lie hidden in its depths?
Yeah.
And what does the future hold for this extraordinary sea and the people who depend on it? Those are questions we'll continue to explore.
Definitely.
But for now, our deep dive into the Black Sea has come to an end.
A fascinating journey. Thanks for taking me along.
Of course, until next time.